many friendly faces. Yoo-hoo. Smiley faces. Eche, Benoit is here, Larry is here, I see Louise, Saeed. Okay, all right. Europe is representing. Good afternoon, everyone. Harsh, it's pretty late for you, I think. Good morning as well to everyone joining us from the Americas. Eche snacking as always. That's awesome. Bon appetit. Right, settle in everyone, and I am very, very keen, besides knowing where you're tuning in from today, where in the world you are today, I would also be very, very, very curious to take a bit the room temperature when it comes to the learning style. What is your learning style? Are you a visual learner, or are you learning rather through podcasts, auditory, reading, writing, kinesthetic? Just hover over and let us know. All right, Harsh says no learning styles. Okay, what does that mean? I see we're a lot of reading, writing, a lot of visual learners in the room. I heard this is a Midribana. Well, I'm happy that someone passed the test. Round of applause for Rivana and for Harsh. You have to forgive me for being a bit cheeky today, but learning styles, they are a myth, as mythical as this beautiful pink purple creature that you see in the in the image. And I guess I'm killing the music here. There are a couple of things that have been spread around about the way we learn that are not quite correct. And we've been building learning, think about the learning styles for a while now, especially in education. And we know now for sure it's debunked, it's a myth, they don't exist, it's not a thing, right? But there are a couple of things that we do know about the brain that are rooted into science, rooted into neuroscience. They're being confirmed over and over again. And that's actually what the session is all about. And I am so super excited. And don't cry. There's learning beyond the learning styles. We've got this. We can do this. And I'm very, very excited to welcome Lauren with us today. Hey, Lauren. We got a finger, wave a hand. There we go. Hi. And Lauren is a good friend of mine. I think we connected on LinkedIn a while back. We've been extremely eager to hear her talk because she always brings in the spice, the fire, and she knows what she's talking about when it comes to learning design, learning science, because she's a learning scientist, and she's also the founder of Learning Pirates, and one of the first learning designers in the world to merge the operational function of the brain with the cognitive theories to create large-scale learning designs. And she has led leadership positions and also design for big and small organizations globally, and has some cool stuff in store for us today. So Lauren, over to you.
Yeah, hey everyone. Oh my God, guys, you're gonna find out. First of all, I'm like super cash, so just like I'm expecting a lot of like interaction and whatnot. I'm just gonna sip on my coffee and tell you about brains. But it's so funny because the further along you get in your career, when someone's telling like talking about what you've done, you just start to feel so freaking old. So it's just, I gotta like reverse. I'm gonna shorten my bio. It's so cool to be here with you guys. I don't want to waste any time. I just want to get right into it if you guys are cool with it. We need a YARR on your soundboard. Yeah, you do. Now I have a suspicion that the moment that I go ahead and share my screen, I might lose my eyes on the chat. So Anna Maria is going to be my co-pirate for this session, because don't think that you're just going to sit here and listen to a boring lecture, because I don't want to do that. So get ready to get those brains activated. I'm going to go ahead and share. Let's get the party started. One thing that I will say is that while we're going through today, it's so important. The first tip that I'll give you is work with that brain. Your working memory is very limited. You've got a very limited amount of time in the short-term memory. So if you have a question, if something comes up, if your brain goes, oh my God, it's kind of like that, write it down, write it down. Co-pirates parrots. Oh, I never thought about that. That'd be cool if I could get a parrot and train. Benoit, do not put these ideas in my head because I'm the type of person who will totally try it.
You're the brain expert. You're the brain expert.
Oh my God, it's ridiculous. The stuff that I love novelty. So it's, yeah, you put these ideas in my head and I will do it. All right, so let's get right to it. Anna Maria has done a great job at kind of telling you a little bit about me. One thing I will share as just to get us started here is that a lot of this stuff, as we're going through, you might be like, oh, I kind of feel like I already knew this. And that's because there is a lot of stuff that's very intuitive with us. But for me, it was when I was learning about the brain. Now, I didn't do my PhD. I came into neuroscience later on after I'd already been in my career for some time, worked in academics, worked for a bunch of organizations. And it was more like when I had the opportunity to open for a keynote speaker who was speaking about this stuff, I was like, holy moly, how did I not know this? Like, what's wrong with me? I've like taught around the world. I've taught little brains. I've taught big brains. Like, how do I not know this? And then it became like some freakishly weird obsession where I'm like, I need to know all of this, because I realized that as a designer of learning, that I could be doing so much more if I knew what the actual brain was doing, how it was taking things in. So my rabbit hole went deep, and I quit my job. It sounds so stereotypical now to say like, oh, I quit my job, but I did. I quit my job. I was like the head of learning for a big IT company. I had started my studies already, and I was like, forget it. I want to be part of the change of learning in industry, and why not just go global at the same time? So to prove to you that I'm legit, you can go onto the Learning Pirate website. You can see my certificate IDs. I have not stopped learning since the day I started. So I've got all of these beautiful certificates from all of these, kind of known schools. They're small. You might not know them. But because I take this so incredibly seriously, I also acquired this crazy board of advisors that just keeps growing. I would, if you guys are interested, if you're podcast people, Dr. Nick Hobson is a behavioral scientist that has a podcast called It's All a Bunch of BS. It's awesome. He's a good friend of mine. And the only thing I don't like about him is that he turned me into a pirate meme for my episode that I recorded with him. So I'll forgive him one day. But yeah, these are the people who keep me credible, and the board just keeps on growing. Now, I saw somebody put in the chat already, we need a YARR. So I don't know if somebody already knows who I am and what that all means, but you might see it on my arm as well. I branded myself a few years ago, and hopefully you'll have some of these moments, which is the moment of YARR, which stands for this: you are really ready. And whether that's something that you feel like you finally have learned it, because learning is hard, and you have that victorious moment. Maybe you've just done something really great in your day. Like I use YARR. I think Anna Maria knows, like when I'm speaking, it's just kind of part of my language. I'll use it to agree with you. I'll use it to like just random all over the place. So feel free to YARR if you're having a good time today. On a personal note, I like the one. Okay, I like the applause, but that air horn thing that goes brr, 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 that's my favorite. Love that. So distracting. All right, brain, to it. There is a little bit of a personal side to my purpose and the passion of me studying the brain, and it was for this woman as well. This was my grandmother, Lillian. She was my heart and my soul and my everything. And for the last, a while, it was like the last 8 years of her life was spent at the Rotman Research Institute at Baycrest Hospital. And when she started to decline, when she had dementia, It was really, how do I understand what's happening in her brain so that I can connect with her, so that I can just kind of be with her that little bit more. Unfortunately, sometimes we can't follow them to the places that their brains go to, but we can bring them back for these beautiful moments of clarity. So there's so many stories I could share about that, but I just wanted to let you know that there's so much heart that goes behind Learning Pirate and the work that I do, because when you start to learn about your brain, I know we're going to talk about learning today, but it will profoundly change you as a human being. So a lot of what I do is in honor of her and all of the scientists who work with me. So before I start crying, I just want to let you know that today you're going to learn absolutely nothing. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. You're not learning anything, because that's just not the way it works. What I would love to know, though, maybe you can tell me in the chat, Anna will tell me, has anyone ever been in an MRI before? Have you ever had, and it doesn't have to be to have like your brain scanned. MRIs are used for a bunch of different things, but like, have you ever been in an MRI before? Yes or no in the chat?
Yep. Yes. Yes. Thumbs up. Some no's, some notes, some yes. So
okay. I think we're all pretty familiar with what they look like. Now, this is where I like to share a little bit of history so that we can have an appreciation of how far we've come with the science itself. So these photos are from 1977. That man with the mustache is Dr. Damadian, and he created what you're looking at. That's an MRI. That's actually one of the first MRIs. And him and his grad student, the one who's sitting with that like air conditioner type unit around him, looking pretty calm and collected at the moment. This was how it all started. I love the next photo about to show up on your screen, because if I would have been, look at how cool and collected the grad student with like the air conditioner type thing around him looks. Now look at his face. He looks a little bit like what's about to happen to me. So I'm pretty sure he survived the first test, because if they didn't, we wouldn't have had what we now know as the machines today. So science has come a long way, and because of it, we can do remarkable things to look inside of the brain. And with that, we have all of these crazy ways to see what's being activated where, and this is how science and research is conducted. So just some really cool things. This is fMRI. If you're curious, basically where you see colors that are like orange and yellow, those are high active. Orange, yellow, red are kind of your high activation levels. Blues, purples, lower activation levels. And this is how we can check out the blood flow and what's active in the brain. Now, that's a little bit about me. I want to know about you guys. In the chat, I'm dying to know, can you tell me something that you are absolutely amazing at? Like this person who can make fantastic cakes. What are you amazing at? And Anna, I'm gonna lean on you to tell me all their amazing.
I'm your chat eyes and mic. Chat voice and chat eyes.
Love it.
Googling, talking too much, breathing, running engaging workshops, tomato puns, connecting unrelated things, being a grandma. Oh, Barb, beautiful. Baking, says Julia.
Oh, baking, Julia, you're going to appreciate this.
Writing, making pies, coaching children, learning experience design, simplifying, digital art, and being myself, or me, losing my keys.
Oh my God. Whoever's amazing. I'm not amazing at losing my keys, but I'm so amazing at running around the house with like my phone and stuff in my hands while I'm still looking for the things that are in my hands. So, okay, let's go to the opposite side of that. Now I want you guys to tell me, what is something that you are like really not so great at? Like I cannot decorate. Like I can't do home improvements for the life of me. I cannot hang a picture straight for the life of me. What are you epically bad at? Julia, I think you said you were the baker here. You'll appreciate this.
All right, we've got mathematics. Like it's the first thing. I can +1 that. I'm really bad at stopping to overthink, bad at doing tedious tasks, not so amazing at home repairs, Christmas trees, taking photos, concentrating, Excel, phone calls. I don't care about details. I'm not good at singing, DIYing, multitasking. I'm not good at relaxing. Okay, remember.
Oh my God, you guys are amazing.
Birthdays.
You guys are so good. Okay, to the person who said that they're not good at singing, so I can actually sing, but my favorite people are the ones who actually can't sing because you bring me so much joy.
And you have to hear this one, Lauren. Not good at controlling my chocolate intake.
Ooh. Yeah, those dopamine hits are real. It's, that just makes you feel good. Think about all the experiments they used to do on mice. They used to give mice cane to the point where like those dopamine hits they want it so badly, they'd just be like, those little paws would just be like tap, 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 tap until they died. So, all right. So I'm assuming, just tell Anna in the chat, I'm assuming you kind of had a good laugh with that. That might've been a little bit amusing for you. Are we happy? A little giggle.
Are we happy? React with a smiley emoji if we're happy.
Fabulous. I'm going to
LOL.
assume that we're...
Yes.
Yeah. It was
Heart
pretty
eyes,
funny, right?
thumbs up, party. Yes.
Yes. Amazing. Welcome to your first moment of YARR, because that, my friends, was a little bit of emotional reactivity to get your neurochemistry stimulated, stimulate a little bit of novelty, because we need this when we are learning. Now, the other reason why I want to show you this is because there's two very important parts of your brain. They're all really important, but two very important parts. One that's floating around on your screen right now. If you were to take your hands, throw it on your forehead, this is your prefrontal cortex, and it's right behind there. And this is your executive function. So I like to call it my boss box. It's like it tells me like what I should be doing, and like if I'm like, problem solving effectively, and when I need to focus. This governs your behaviors. There's so much important stuff happening in your executive function. But the reason why I wanted to do a little bit of that emotional start was that this part of the brain is also very highly interconnected, like from networks with your amygdala, and your amygdala is your emotional processing centers. You've got one on each side. And what you're seeing there is that we need to be in certain states to be able to learn. And if we are in a highly emotional state and we over sort of do it on our stress, this tiny but mighty little piece of our brain, I call her Amy. I lovingly call her Amy because she's such a diva sometimes. Like she'll just be like, rah, you ain't learning nothing right now. I'm taking over. I call the executive function Corey. This is how I've taught my niece. I've been teaching my niece since she was 3 about the brain. So we called Corey for the prefrontal cortex and Amy for the amygdala. But when Amy's in charge, Corey can't do much. So this is just a reminder that we do want learning to be a little bit stressful, but we don't want it to be to the point where you can't actually function and can't think about that. So also, what did this have to do? Well, we did a little bit of novelty as well. I adore novelty. Like if you put me on the set of like Alice in Wonderland and Willy Wonka and kind of merge those two together, I would be in my happy place. But novelty also stimulates what are called these dopamine neurons, dopaminergic neurons. So when you can insert novelty into your learning, do it. Just don't overdo it, because then you overstimulate those neurons and then the brain's just going, where's that next one? Where's that next one? The other reason that I asked you about what you're amazing at and what you're not so amazing at, because for a small period of time before you answered, you had to think about what you were thinking about. You had to think about it. What am I really good at? What am I not so good at? And this is a superpower when you learn to cultivate the masterful skill of metacognition. Now, I love to describe this as becoming the audience to your own performance. So metacognition is really about you being able to monitor and regulate your thinking and your processes. Now, this is so important to learning. Unfortunately, none of us were ever taught this stuff. I wasn't taught this when I was growing up in school, but it's so highly important. And not just to learning. I'll give you some context as we're going through like how this is relatable just to our everyday lives. But when it comes to learning, and even if you're doing something with work, I want you to sort of put these next questions in your head, right? So regularly want to monitor what you know, what you don't know, and what you think you know. So what you know, what you don't know, what you think you know. Now, the one that's always going to get us a little bit tied up, I'll say, is the things that we think we know, especially when we're learning. Now, a lot of learning design, I think Anna Maria had mentioned, I'm a scientific learning designer. This presentation has been designed with science to help your brains kind of come along on the journey with me. But a lot of the times when we're creating our own learning and when we are designing learning, we miss the opportunities to catch people in those moments of what you think you know. Anna did it to you guys right at the beginning. Like that whole learning styles thing was brilliant. Most of you already knew you were being trapped, which is great. But that's a perfect method for your learning, or if you're creating learning for other people, is you want to create those moments of measurement. Because what's the point? I know all of us experience this, but what's the point of like going through a course or going to training, not being like monitoring like what you actually know during it, and then realizing afterwards, I can't transfer this. I don't remember it. And then it's like the person who said in the chat that they were really good at Googling, that's what you wind up doing. You just wind up Googling or YouTubing, or I guess now TikToking, like whatever answers you can finally, get to. But I want you to learn to regularly monitor those 3 things. And I promise you, you will have an exceptional, better experience when you're coming to learning, and you'll transfer more. You'll learn more. Now, those moments of like, you got me. Right? You do it for yourself when you're learning. You can kind of trap yourself, or if you're designing learning for others, you embed those into the actual learning. Okay. So it's a little sneaky. We're not doing it right. Now, I like to use this as well. Metacognition, it's a massive, massive, massive theory. So don't only think about these skills that I'm sort of telling you about as things that you apply to learning. They're things that we apply to life. To have a metacognitive power is to also be aware in the present moment, which means it becomes your superpower when you want to regulate your emotions and your behaviors. And just for clarity, just for scientific clarity, emotions and feelings are different. Emotions are the neurochemical response that your brain has. It's when the chemicals are released, but your feelings are the tangible conscious experience that you're having of that activation in your brain. So that, to me, when I learned that kind of blew my world a bit. So design in tests, design in practices, design in traps, but also think about when you're reading a book, go back to the top of the page. Did you actually remember what was there? Your working memory is very limited, but if there was valuable information on that page, you don't want to miss it. So it's a matter of practicing to condition ourselves to stop in those moments. Harder said than done. We will work on that. So monitor what you know, what you don't know, and what you think you know. And now for those who are watching, I need you to close your eyes for 10 seconds. I got my phone. Start now. Big breath in. Nice breath out. Just take a moment. All right, go ahead and open. All right. In the chat, I need you to write down without even pausing for us, like just get your hands ready to fire. In the chat, I want you to write the first thing that comes to mind when you see the next word on your screen. Go.
Fun, experience, butter, student, positive, fun, work, lifelong, effort, fun, knowledge transfer, nudges, skills, teacher, teaching, happiness,
Yes.
knowledge, growing, school.
There we go.
That design.
Oh shit.
Emotion.
Okay, sorry. I just swore. I don't know if that's allowed, but I'll try to maybe just like, do you have one of those like censor buttons? Sorry.
We'll edit that out for you, Lauren.
We're all adults here. All right, in the chat, get ready. Yes or no?
Did anyone ever teach you how to learn? Yes or no? No, 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 no. Yes. No. 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 Ish. Not really. No. Yes. Nope. No. Ish. Probably not. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, none of us did. For the most part, none of us really did. So as an educator, when I first started getting into this, and especially like I was a CLO before I started learning Pirate, I was so embarrassed almost, or like, had a little moment of shame. Like, wait, first of all, when I was learning about the brain, when I first started my studies, I knew nothing about my own brain, nothing. Like I was starting at the baseline, and I had these moments of reading these like textbooks and and going through my courses, and I was like mid-30s at that point, and I would sit there like a 5-year-old sounding out words again because I couldn't pronounce them. I had to like break them down. So yeah, no one really ever, and I realized I didn't even understand my own learning process, and definitely no one taught me about my brain. So I just want to quick and dirty show you how your brain works. This is very basic fundamental level. So in these gorgeous 3 pounds of meatloaf that you got up here, you've got about 86 million cells called neurons. You might have heard of them. They're quite popular, these. Now, these cells are, I'm just like going off the cuff here. These cells have 3 parts that are sort of generic to all of them. There's a ton of different types of neurons. We're just going to go a quick overview. If you looked at the palm of your hand and you drew a circle, that would be your cell body. And your fingers would represent these dendrites, these receivers of information. And then your arm would represent the axon, which is like the network, or sorry, the axon is the center of information. So you get this information through the tree branches, through these tiny little, we'll get to them, spaces in between. Now, if there's a strong enough signal, it turns into an electrical signal that goes through the center and then shoots down those highways of information to connect to the next cell. This happens over and over and over and over again at lightning speed. Now, when you put all of one of these together, you get, by the way, I drew these. You can applaud my crappy drawings if you'd like. We put all, thank you. Now you put all of these together. Now remember, 86 billion of the cells, there's about 5 to 10 of those tree branches, which are your experiences and memories that grow from those cell bodies. Now multiply that. 86 times like 5 or 10, you got, there are crazy numbers going on. I failed math in grade 11 epically, so you do the math. Won't fit on the calculator. This is a real one. This is one neuron that is actually, it's at the back of your head. It's called the occipital lobe. This is where your visual systems are. This is what this really looks like. Now get ready to have your mind blown because you grow these things and this is what it looks like. Now this is a neuron that has been grown. We can actually grow these in petri dishes, but as you can see, those dendrites are starting to expand out. The neuron at the top of the screen is irregular, and that's why you're seeing it's not growing it's not extending and growing dendrites. You grow those in your head. Anna Maria, are we blowing their minds yet? Have you ever seen this stuff before?
Minds are being blown as we speak, as a matter of fact, yes.
Fantastic. I love blowing minds because I'm sure it's not, you don't get exposure to, you know, these live neuroimaging footages at all times. So it's cool to see. Now, let's take another one of those little neurons and look at those tiny little yellow and red dots there. Those are called synapses. Now, most communication happens at these levels, okay? They're very, very, very tiny structures and they release the chemicals. Now, your ability to learn and basically change your behavior or do anything is because this can all change up here. Neuroplasticity and synaptic plasticity. So it's very, well, I'm going to show you. I'm not even going to explain it then, but let's go into this. What is learning then? Okay, if learning is really happening at this like crazy mechanistic level in the brain, what is it? Well, learning then involves you to grow very topic specific dendrites to specific neurons at specific synapses. So every time you learn something, that network grows more and more massive each time. And this is what it looks like. This is a real brain, a very small piece of it. Check this out. This is happening in your brain right now. Things are moving around, they're firing about. There's probably about 5 or 6 neurons that I can see identified on the screen right now. All day, every day, people. Now, this has been sped up, as you can see. If you look at the bottom, it's going like we're at 94, 95 hours, but a matter of days, and all of this is happening. So this is learning. This is how we change. This is neuroplasticity. So by changing or remapping the networks, we're creating new pathways because they're responding to stimulus and repetition. Now, what do you think? Guys, okay? It's pretty cool to see this stuff for the first time if you haven't seen it.
Lots of thumbs up, lots of brains. Very cool.
I look at these things all the time and I never get bored of it. it never ceases to amaze me. And like, I sit here and I'm like, that's happening right now up here. Like, it's just every time mind blowing. All right. Do nothing for 10 seconds. Take a chill. 10 seconds. Just absorb. We don't always have to be in high gear. Although my coffee is really kicking in. So okay, 10 seconds right there. Reset. So, like I said, thank you. We often rip through learning, right? So now there was a major study that came out I think it was 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. I've actually got it. It's awesome. When we do nothing, even for as small as 10 seconds. Now this is better. They've done a lot of studies on motor skill. But what happens in the brain is you're getting neural repetition. And when that happens, it's basically like doing something 10 times the amount. And all you have to do is pause for a few seconds to let your brain go, whew, okay, that happened. Let's repeat that for a few moments. Okay. So take pauses while you're learning. It's very important for your brain because the purposes of us learning is to do this, is to change brain, right? So you can see, like I said, this is a little human brain. They were learning how you can read. They were learning how to read. And before they went in the scanner, before they learned, very little innovation. After, boom, networks are formed, blood flow happens, and they were learning. But it's not just about learning. It's about memory. Now, this is going to be fun. I got a question for you guys. If you saw something, let's say, if you saw something 100 times, do you think you could remember it? If I showed you something 100 times, could you remember it?
Nope. Maybe, depends what it is.
Okay. Well, let's try. Let's see.
Not always, depends.
Right? In the chat, I need you to do me a favor. And can you please tell me which is the correct Google? By the way, you can't Google. If everyone starts getting it right, I know you're cheating. Which is the right Google logo? Take a stab at
5, 4, no idea. 1, 6, the first one. No idea. 5, 4, 4, 1, 1, 6, 7. Okay.
Woo! You got Googled. What? Love it. Okay, what does this little experiment show us? Okay, so first of all, it shows us that obviously just because you see something a million times, it doesn't mean that you remember it. By the way, it was number 5. To the person who said that they were really good at Googling, I hope you got that right. But what it shows us is the difference between exposure versus deep processing. We're exposed to a lot of things and a lot of information and stuff on a daily basis, but if we're not deep processing it, then we're not encoding it as a memory. It also reinforces the importance of those metacognitive skills because you might have thought, yeah, I see Google all the time. I know what the logo is. Nope. So we thought we knew, but we didn't know. Learning takes a lot more intention and a lot more focus for that to happen. As a quick and dirty, I'm going to take you through, just so you have an idea of what happens when we are creating a memory. So all of that crazy information is coming into you. We are handling a lot of sensory information from our environments all the time. A lot of that is just, we take it in, it's gone. We don't need to remember it. What happens next? When we are learning, we then go into this working memory phase, right? Now, working memory is quite limited. It doesn't last too long. I think I have to check the stats, but it definitely lasts for minutes. It could go up to 30 minutes if my research was correct. I got to look into that. But when we're learning, this is where that focus time needs to happen, because if you're not rehearsing at this point, then again, it's going to be forgotten. I don't know if anyone ever played the game Snakes and Ladders as a kid, but I always sort of picture this as Snakes and Ladders. If you don't rehearse and if you don't practice, it's like, oh man, you're down the snake and you got to climb back up that ladder again. You got to keep going, keep rehearsing, because the goal of all of this is to get into the encoding process into your long-term memory. If you get it into your long-term memory, that means that we can probably retrieve it and actually use it. So the quick and dirty of this one is this: encode. This is when your brain is really going to expend a lot of energy, right? It's the process through which the information is learned. and it's taken in and it's understood. So you're going to burn through a lot of your resources trying to figure out what's what and what's new. So this is like the first step of the memory. Second, store it. Practice the heck out of it in whatever way that if you can, right? So it's going to be different, whether that's if you're learning, to play basketball, they're practicing all the time. Knowledge and information, you're going to have to figure out, how are you planning out your learning in order to remember that stuff? But remember, you're trying to create specific networks in your brain that represent the skill, the knowledge, the behavior. And the only way that they become a long-term memory is by you strengthening them through rehearsal and practice. And then you need to retrieve it. So once you get to the retrieval process, it's going to be in that long-term memory system. And what happens is that when you're learning, the certain neurons, while you're doing learning, they're kind of being stamped, right? So picture it like a connect the dots. So then when the memory is retrieved, all those dots are connected and they're firing like really crazy together to create the picture of that memory. Cool, right? That's like such a quick and dirty of memory, guys. I can't even begin to tell you how complex each one of these topics that I'm telling you about is, and how far the rabbit hole is deep on all of the research on all of these. I just wanted to give you the high levels here. Now, in the chat, take a guess. There is a gateway to learning. Can you guess what the gateway to learning is?
Practice. Attention, fear, psychological safety, engagement, tension, value, intention, evoking the learner, remembering stuff, learning gaps, connections, desire, motivation, spaced repetition, desire.
Oh, wow. Lots of
boredom.
It's collective knowledge. I love that people are just like, I don't know. Me neither. It's good to admit those things. Okay. A couple of you were close. Your gateway to learning is focus. So I'm going to put 30 seconds on my timer here. For the next 30 seconds, I need you to look at that heart. Go. I guaranteed you, your visual centers just went up to the reminder there. You could not help but look at that as it popped up. That was a trap. Sorry, not sorry. So you were kind of close. Attention is important, but it's your gateway to focus, and focus is the gateway to learning. So what you've got on your screen there, what's really important to sort of take away from this is that focus isn't a spotlight. We can't just turn on a flashlight and focus. The brain actually does need to warm up to it. And there's a lot of different ways that we can work with our neurochemistry to help do this. But what I wanted you to see here is that we have a lot of attentional networks in the brain, right? So there's some attentional networks that are sort of orientating you to spatial awareness. There are some that are very specific sensory inputs, your executive attention to maintain focus. There's so much going on in here. So to think that we can just be like, I'm going to sit and focus like for an hour and a half and learn, it's very challenging. And focus is really what they learned. This was in 2019 that they discovered this in MIT, was that there's a part of the brain that's acting as a dimmer switch. So if you kind of think about all of these attentional networks and they want to drive your attention different places, but there's like this dimmer switch that goes, I'm going to turn down the volume on this. And that allows us to harness the attention in order to focus. Now, focus is very much governed in our executive function, and we can strengthen our ability to focus by asking ourselves questions like, where do you want to guide your attention? I always am asking myself throughout my day. This is something that I discovered is a really good habit for me. Where is my attention? Because my attention is where my focus is going to be. And one of the best tips I can give you when it comes to your brain and learning or working or anything is don't work against it. Just if you are really having a hard time keeping and maintaining your focus, just take a breath, change the environment if you have that luxury, and just then reattune. Now, some of the latest research, things that you can do, the 30 to 60 seconds of staring at a screen, what that does is it harnesses the visual. Your visual focus is basically guiding your cognitive focus. So that's why we did that on the screen. it's not easy to do. Like in those, like we didn't even do a full 30 seconds, but it can be very challenging to do because you've got so much more going on in here. And unless you have a good practice of being able to quiet things down a little bit, it takes some, you know, intentional practice. Now, it doesn't always have to be meditation. Okay. It doesn't, you can train the attentional networks in your brain by doing other little things. I like to do this experiment with people where I say, go out into the world and look for a color. Just go out, leave your house and say, I'm going to look for a specific color, but don't make it like a red, make it like a cherry red, or not an orange, but like a tangerine. And those are little things that you can do just to guide your attention to help you to focus. The 30 to 60 seconds, like I said, that's also something you can do. If you have the luxury of time, the latest, greatest research, if anyone out there listens to binaural beats, the hertz that you want to be listening to is 40 H said, but the kicker here is it has to be pure. There can't be music in the background. 40 hertz, pure binaural beats, 30 minutes before you start working. I have been doing this. This research just came out not too long ago. I started this practice, game changer. It's like all of a sudden the frequency in my brain is like being tuned to the right station. And I'm like, I can do this. Let's go. Now I want to make sure we've got time to run out. So I'm not going to do the focus experiment with you again. But again, just little things that you can do to help harness your brain. And what this also does internally is it's stimulating neurochemistry that we need, specifically a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine. So these little things, it's not just about us, you know, getting our minds ready to do it, but there's actual chemistry in your brain being activated to help you do it. Now, I want to just close a little bit off here by talking a little bit about one of the most important steps in learning and creating memory. Do you have any clues in the chat? What is one of the most important steps in learning and creating memory?
Retrieval.
Mm-hmm.
Emotion. Experience. Links. Repetition. Repetition.
Okay.
Sleep. Practice. Connections.
Yeah.
Motivation. Focus.
You guys are killing it. You're crushing it. There's one thing that is the most important though.
Sleep.
Yeah.
Go,
Sleep.
Patrick.
Sleep, guys. So it's so cool to see this in the brain. So there is a consolidation process that happens while you are, it doesn't have to be like overnight sleep. You can also go into, it's NSDR, which stands for non-sleep deep rest. Now, those are meditative states that you can go into for 20 to 30 minutes, but that is what the brain needs in order to help consolidate learning about memory and sleep. I came across, I don't know if it was in a lecture I was in or a white paper I was reading, but this is so cool. It said that sleep is the only time that your brain is remembering and forgetting at the same time. I was like, wow, that's so crazy. So I think by now I don't have to tell you, you're all grown adults, like the importance of sleep, just for your brain health and for your cognitive function, for your overall physical health as well. It's so important. But memory is triggered by the act of learning, but consolidation of memory happens when we're in deep sleep or rest. I remember doing a session with a client in the US, and they really wanted to go for it. And there was about 60 people. It was a huge room. And these people have been flown in from all over the world. They asked me to do a 4-hour session. And I said, I will do your 4-hour session on one condition. And they're like, what's that? I said, at 3 o'clock, somewhere between 2:30 and 3 o'clock during the session, I want everyone to take a nap. I'm like, we're going to put on meditative music and I want a 20-minute meditation. And somehow they agreed to this, which was epic. And the coolest part about it was that when we got to that, I think as an adult, you're not really, we're not like, hey, it's nap time now. I've never seen so many adults find tables to go under and sleep under for 20 minutes so fast. It was amazing. And then to bring them out of the meditation, because we were in a huge office space, but there was windows all around. I said, okay, now I need you to get up, go to the window, and I want you to just tip your head and look up a little bit. Because when we tip our heads up and we're looking up, we're basically stimulating a different type of neurochemistry, because it's a signal of the sun rising. It's time to wake up. It was awesome. I've never done it before. I haven't done it again yet. So I haven't been to an organization where they let me have a session where I can tell people to take naps, but I've got hope for the future. So sleep is important. We'll wrap it up there. As a recap of everything, what have you learned today?
Sleep well. Sleep a lot. Focus.
Okay. Sleep, focus, sleep.
I have lots to learn.
So do
There
I.
was a cat somewhere. Do not trust Anna Maria. Focus is the gateway to learning. Thank you, Saeed. The difference between emotions, feelings, novelty is good for learning. Attention
Oh, I
needs to
love
focus.
this.
Focus, repeat, sleep.
Okay. Well, I mean, those are all amazing, but as a recap, you obviously already forgot the process of the brain. It just doesn't work like that. You learn nothing, but thank you for acknowledging that you've got curiosity about things. Absolutely nothing. Hopefully I've stimulated your curiosity to learn a little bit more about these remarkable things of yours and what's going on in them. This was like a quick and dirty scratch of the surface. If you want to be my friend, there's only one learning pirate on LinkedIn. They haven't kicked me off yet, which is great. So you can find me there. I tend to cause a lot of trouble on LinkedIn, or you can check out what's going on with the Learning Pirate website, because you never know what I'm going to do or when I'm going to do it. So I'm going to stop sharing now so I can return to the land of being able to see your faces. And just thanks, guys. Thanks for letting me play with your brains for the last 45 minutes or 50. I don't even know.
Thank you. All right. We have 10 more minutes, Lauren. Look at all these emojis flying around. Woohoo!
Thanks, Shreya. Yeah. I honestly, if I didn't do service to actually delivering a presentation scientifically designed to keep you engaged and keep those brains on their toes, like I would quit. No dirty pirate jokes. Did someone make a dirty pirate joke? Oh, harsh. Sorry. It's 10 p.m. I'm not sleepy anymore. I'm sorry. Harsh, if you do want to be sleepy, just go and get into in a good way. I know this is all really cool. You might have some funky dreams after this session. Maybe you'll be able to like see your brain in a really meta dream way. Big breaths, Harsh. Calculate.
We have a couple of questions in the chat throughout the sessions, which I pinned, and I am surfacing now for you, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see it.
So how do you really think about integrating practices like spaced repetition and interleaving within a cohort-based course?
Delicious question. I love that so much. So what a lot of people don't realize about using something like spaced repetition and interleaving is you have to be very intentional, very timely, and very strategic about where you use them. And I think that these are the variables that are missed, right? So what is the purpose of the spacing effect? The spacing effect is to give your brain some time to forget so that we can try to remember again. But if you're doing that within, let's say, an hour-long period, you're not giving that enough space and time in between. So we want to make sure that when you're using something like spaced repetition, that you're not just, this is why it's incredibly challenging to design learning scientifically, because it's not just about, oh, I'm going to stop here and we're going to repeat it over there. No, there's variables of time that we want to take into consideration. Have you given the brain of the person trying to learn enough time to diffuse, to just go into a place where it can start connecting things itself before you go back and try to repeat it again? So make sure that when you're using things like that, that you are allotting, not just like, you know, within an hour, come back to it after 3 hours, come back to it after a day. Now that you know that memory is consolidating over, you know, during rest and during sleep, it changes the way that we use this. Interleaving is fantastic because it challenges the brain to retrieve and manipulate the information in a different way when you're using it. So I am a big proponent of both of those techniques and methods, but you just have to be a little bit more mindful, which is why it's cool when you know about the brain, of how to use it so that it is working optimally.
All right. How are we doing? I think it was Harsh. Is the question answered? I think it was your question. Feel free to ask a follow-up question. Okay.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Cool.
My pleasure.
All right, Lauren. Alice says, with the part of what you think you know, do you think there's a risk of making people not feel psychologically safe when we kind of design and invite them and talk about the things that they don't know? Or the things that you think you know about the topic?
So don't take it so literally. So when we're not actually, when I design with the theory and when I design with the method, it's not literally going in and exposing someone to like, hey, what is it that you think you know, but you don't know? It's within the design. What we're doing is we're getting these opportunities for them to discover that themselves. It's the, okay, I thought I knew that. Okay, I don't know that. So whether that be through a multiple choice question or through a little quiz or through, whatever tactic is, again, it's not always going to be knowledge-based learning. It could be skill or something that has to do with behaviors. You have to really sort of strategically choose when those moments are happening, but we're not actually going in and saying, what do you think you know? What don't you know? And shaming them, because you're absolutely right. Creating psychologically safe environments is incredibly important. If we overstimulate the emotional centers in the brain, as you saw, executive function goes offline and no learning will happen. So yeah, it's just, don't take it so literally.
So don't play cheeky at the beginning of the session, like what I did today with the learning styles. That's a no-no.
Oh, you can do well. If it's done in good humor, then we're good.
Okay, Alice, is the question answered? I think it was your question.
Yes, thank you.
No problem.
All right. We've got a really good one from Jessica. Nick Shackleton-Jones states that everything is emotion and that a good learning experience should tackle learners' emotions. Is that true? When is this beneficial to use? What do you have to say about that, Lauren?
So everything is not emotions. Now, we know that there is an emotional aspect to a lot of what we do, but we can't say with certainty that it's part of everything that we do. We know that emotions play a big role in our cognitive and our executive function, but you have to be so careful, especially if you're responsible for designing learning. You really have to be very careful with how you stimulate emotion, right? Because it's not, remember, when you're stimulating emotion, it's to evoke a feeling. So emotion is the neurochemistry, feeling is the tangible experience. Now we've seen in when people overstimulate, like when it's too novel, when it's too fun, then the brain is going to start looking for those cues of those things instead of focusing on the learning that you need them to do. That's why if you, I know you guys are going to have a session with Mo Ash. Mo's like the king of gamification. Him and I have had like loads of talks about this, is that gamification is amazing. But if you overstimulate the reward centers, that's what the brain is going to be looking for. The other thing too is when it comes to someone, I'm going to merge two questions together. When you've got, something that is very highly emotionally charged, then the brain is going to stamp those neurons to create a memory almost instantly, but those are traumas. And we definitely don't want to take our learners into a state of trauma. So please err on the side of caution when you're using, anything that has to do with emotions, and think about what are the feelings that are going to come out of this. But also, we don't know what kind of experiences people have in their brains and what memories can be triggered, but we can definitely have that awareness of something could be triggered in there. We want to be cautious. I hope that answered the question.
Jessica, anything to add here? Any follow-up question?
You're welcome.
Okay.
Guys, it's so hard to like give you like quick and dirty answers on things that are so complex. all of your questions warrant a whole other session.
Tell us about the 10,000 hours rule. You know, the mastery, the road to mastery. You have to practice something for 10,000 hours to become an expert or a master at something. Is that a thing?
It's a
Or
thing.
is that a myth?
No, it's a thing. Angela Duckworth's research on grit. Her book is wonderful. I've been reading it. Her book has taken me forever to read because I'm just like, I'm learning as I'm going. But yeah, no, the 10,000 hours, I think where the myth with the 10,000 hours comes in is that people don't realize it's like over years of accumulation, like years. It's not, just try to cram in 10,000 hours over the course of few months. It's been taking these people years to master their skills through that amount of practice and rehearsal.
Right.
Benoit, you're on fire today, my friend. Someone give this guy a mic. Doesn't everything we do stimulate for response? Yes, sir, it does.
All right. Okay, Saeed, are we good with that answer? All right. Eche asks, what causes things like still not knowing what's right or left, or not being able to do small number math?
What? Are you asking me why you can't do math? Is that when I figure out why I can't do it, I'll let you know. Sorry, repeat the question again.
What causes things like not knowing what's right or left, or not being able to do a small number of maths? Or Eche, maybe you want to take this one.
Oh man.
Yeah. No, maybe just like as a quick explanation, I asked this after even after like a lot of repetitions of, using my right and left hands, but still it's not like a quick memo for me to what's my right, what's my left. So things like that.
Ooh, I'm almost hesitant to answer that because, there's very specific things that happen in your brain that can, we might all have the same pieces up here, but they're not all wired the same. We're definitely not, we're not all wired the same. So that there could be anything going on there. Yeah, so I'm sort of hesitant to answer that just because I don't want to get into I like to stay in my lane is what it comes down to. I would hate to give you any false information.
All right. Alice, thanks for being here. And we are at time and we have to jump straight to the next session. Lauren, it was an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for accepting
Thanks, guys. I don't know where you are in the world, but have a good one.
Thanks for all the great questions.
YARR.
I'm enabling the soundboard for everyone so we can actually make lots of noise for Lauren and thank her for all of the awesome. Yoo-hoo! And we're continuing the conversation, the exploration of learning in another room with Alexandra Allen, and she's talking about how do we design cohort-based courses, or better said, what's the mistake that most of us are doing when we design those experiences. So I hope to see you all there. It was awesome. Thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye, guys.
And Lauren, see you hopefully very, very soon.